Imagine this: a temple rises above the city, gleaming white under the Mediterranean sun. Priests in clean robes walk in slow ceremony. Statues tower overhead: Apollo, Athena, Artemis, silent, perfect, eternal. Visitors come with offerings, incense curls in the air. Hymns echo between the columns. But behind all this beauty, behind the rituals, the chants, the glowing oil lamps, something else exists. A hidden world, a world of footsteps that must be quiet, hands that never rest, names that no one remembers. This is where you live, not as a priest, not as a worshipper, but as property of the gods, a temple slave. Tonight, you step into a life few people speak of, a life erased from glory, a life sacrificed to silence. This is what it really feels like to be a temple slave in ancient Greece. Now, comment below. Where are you watching this from, and what time is it right now? Chapter 1: How You Became a Temple Slave. You didn't choose this, but the world you were born didn't care about choice. Temple slavery in ancient Greece wasn't seen as cruelty. It was seen as piety, an honorable offering. A family might sacrifice a goat, a jug of wine, or a child. They truly believed the gods watched, judged, and rewarded these acts. But when you grew old enough to understand what happened to you realized the gods never asked for any of this. Only the people did. The gift, sacrificed by the living. If you were dedicated by your family, the memory is somehow stranger. You remember your mother's trembling hands, your father avoiding your eyes. You remember walking up the marble steps, thinking you were going to pray. But instead, the priest placed his hand on your head. He spoke a blessing, and your parents stepped back. The distance between you and them felt like a canyon. Some parents left quickly, others lingered, crying into their robes. But none ever returned. Sometimes at night, when the temple is quiet, you replay the moment again and again, trying to understand how devotion could look so much like abandonment. Born to serve the temple as your first home. And then there are children who never knew another world. Your earliest memory might be the sound of water dripping from a stone basin, or the cold of the marble under your bare feet, or the voice of an older slave teaching you which corridors to avoid. You grew up believing the gods owned your body, that your worth came from obedience, that silence was a virtue. Sometimes, when you caught your reflection in the ceremonial bronze mirror, you wondered if the gods recognized you, or if you were just another shadow moving through the halls. No escape. The temple claims you completely. No matter how you entered this life, by gift or by birth, the temple becomes your cage. Its walls taught you to walk softly. Its rituals taught you to hide your fear. Its priests taught you that disobedience was sin. But deep inside your chest, beneath all the rules and routines, the smallest ember of your old self still burned, quiet, fragile, waiting. A secret you didn't even realize you were carrying. Chapter 2. The temple is its own world. The temple is not just a building, it's a universe with its own laws, rhythms, and hierarchy. From the outside, it looks serene. Rows of perfect columns, doors of carved cedar, smoke rising gracefully from the altar. But once you step inside, you understand the truth. The temple is alive, and you are one of the veins that keep it functioning. The public court, a mask of holiness. Tourists call it breathtaking. Sunlight filtering through columns, fresh laurel draped across statues, priests chanting in measured harmony. But none of that beauty exists without endless labor behind it. You clean the marble that worshippers admire. You refill the incense burners they praise. You sweep the footprints they leave behind. The temple's holiness is built on your exhaustion. Yet most people never see you. You are the invisible machinery behind their spiritual comfort. People think temples are sacred spaces, untouched by human ambition. They are wrong. Temples are banks, holding gold offerings and city treasures. Temples are courts, where oracles sway political decisions. Temples are symbols of power, commanded by priests who whisper into the ears of kings. And you serve those symbols. You see the alliances made in the shadows, the bribes slipped beneath robes, the arguments disguised as philosophical debates. The temple claims to serve the gods, but most days it feels like the gods serve the temple. The temple as a cage. With its beauty, its power, its wealth, the temple shapes everything inside it, including you. You walk its halls, but never freely. You breathe its incense, but never by choice. You serve its rituals, but never as an equal. Every sound, every task, every step you take reminds you that this is not your home. It is a world you belong to, but will never be part of. Chapter 3. Your day begins before sunrise. Before the sun even touches the marble, you are awake. The temple breathes differently at dawn. Slow, soft, as if holding its breath before the day erupts. To a visitor, dawn at the temple is peaceful. To you, it is the start of survival. The sacred hearth must never go out, so you kneel before it every morning, eyes stinging from smoke, hands shaking from fatigue. You add fresh logs. You whisper the prayer you've memorized by force. You blow gently on the embers to coax them alive. The priests say this fire represents the life of the city. But to you, it represents something else. Responsibility you never asked for. Pressure you never deserved. Dawn tasks are repetitive, but never easy. Every breath, every motion is monitored. A misplaced flower or crooked clock can earn a reprimand. You learn to work with your head bowed, to hide the ache in your back, to ignore the burning in your knees. This is not devotion. This is discipline disguised as holiness. You cook for the priests, warm bread, herbed barley, figs softened in honey, wine diluted with water. The smell fills the room. Your stomach tightens, but you wait. Slaves eat last. Slaves eat scraps, if there are scraps. Some mornings you swallow water and pretend it fills you. You've gotten good at pretending. As the sun rises fully, the temple wakes. Priests chant, worshippers murmur, animals bleat nervously. Children cry when their parents push them forward with offerings. And over all of this sound, your footsteps continue, soft, obedient, invisible. Chapter 4. Rituals that break and build you. Rituals are supposed to be beautiful. At least, that's what people outside the temple believe. They imagine flowing robes, fragrant incense, shimmering statues. They imagine divine harmony, a bridge between humans and gods. But for you, a temple slave, rituals are not beautiful. They are exhausting, terrifying, and sometimes deeply scarring. Because you're not a witness to the ritual, you are part of the machinery that makes it possible. The preparation. Hours before a ritual, the temple enters a frantic state of precision. Priests bark commands as they rush past you. Slaves like you scrub, polish, carry, lift, arrange, and bow until your arms feel like they might fall off. You must polish the sacrificial knives until they shine. Brush ash from the altar stone. Arrange bowls of barley and wine in perfect symmetry. Check that incense sticks are unbroken. Sprinkle the path with crushed flowers. And the entire time you think, don't mess up, don't draw attention, don't make a sound. Ritual days feel like walking on a blade, because when something goes wrong, it's never the priests who are blamed, it's you. Most people who walk through the temple see perfection. Smooth floors, shining altars, garlands that look freshly picked, oil lamps burning with warm, steady light. They imagine the gods shaped this space, or that the priests maintain it. They never imagine you. Your labor is invisible because it's meant to be. Every morning, you haul enormous clay amphorae filled with wine or water. Some weigh more than you do. You brace them against your hip, feeling the clay dig into bone. You take it slow, steady steps, careful not to spill a drop. Because if you do, someone will shout. Someone will punish you. You carry baskets of offerings, figs, grapes, barley, honey, loaves of bread. Your arms burn, your back throbs, but you keep walking, always. Marble looks beautiful in the sun, but it becomes filthy in moments. Visitors track in mud, dust, and dried leaves. Priests step in blood without noticing. Wind scatters ashes across the floor, and your broom never leaves your hands for long. You sweep until your right wrist aches. Then you stitch hands. Then you sweep more. The temple's beauty is a lie. It's built on the backs of people who bleed to maintain it. There are hundreds of lamps, some small and decorative, others large, towering, ominous. Every night you refill them. Every night you clean the suit. Every night you replace the wicks. If you miss even one lamp, a priest might accuse you of neglecting the god. You learn to count them in your sleep, to remember which ones burn fastest, which ones smoke too much, which ones the priests forget exist. No one checks your work, but everyone notices your mistakes. As you work behind the scenes, you occasionally hear laughter from outside the temple walls. Merchants bargaining, children playing, women gossiping in the marketplace, men debating philosophy. You feel like a ghost, watching a life you can't touch. You are living in the heart of the city, but you're not part of it. The world moves forward. You stay frozen in service. The priests claim they speak to the gods. Visitors claim the god answers. But your backbreaking labor is the real devotion here. Your sweat is the oil that keeps this sacred machine running. You do not receive praise. You do not receive gratitude. You only receive more work. But still, something inside you whispers, I am more than this. And that whisper keeps you alive. Chapter 5: Divine Possession and Oracles. The temple claims the gods speak, and sometimes it truly feels like they do. Not through thunder, not through miracles, but through people, through bodies pushed past their limits, through minds shaken loose from reality. You have seen possession, you have seen prophecy, you've seen madness dressed as a revolution, and you have learned that the line between the divine and the broken is razor thin. The Oracle's Chamber. The chamber of the oracle is unlike any other space. Dim, smoky, echoing with the drip of sacred spring water. You lead the Pythia inside. She's older than you expected. Her eyes tired but fierce. She breathes deeply from the swirling vapors rising through the floor. Her fingers grip the tripod. Her body sways. You stand in the shadows, heart racing. Then it begins. Her voice changes, deeper, trembling, filled with something ancient. She speaks in fragmented words, screams, laughs, cries. Priests listen hungrily. Their eyes widen. Their quills scratch across parchment. You watch, horrified, realizing the gods do not speak through her. Something else does. Trauma, pain, isolation, expectation, pressure, her own unraveling mind. One night, the priests say the oracle is ill. They need another vessel. Your stomach drops. Your throat closes. They choose you. You try to protest, but your voice dies. They guide you into the chamber, sit you before the vapors, place laurel in your hair. The smoke burns your lungs. Your vision blurs. Your limbs go weak. Someone whispers, "Let the gods speak." And then you fall. Words spill from your mouth. Words you do not remember forming. Images flash behind your eyes. Flames, drowning, a figure without a face. You wake hours later, cold and numb. The priests record your prophecy. They thank you. You do not feel grateful. You feel hollow, as if something was taken from you and not returned. People travel from far lands to hear the oracle. They imagine divinity flowing through her. They do not see her shaking hands, her cracked lips, her bloodshot eyes, the bruises from collapsing, the way she stares at the floor, as if afraid the earth might swallow her whole. You help her eat, you help her drink, you help her breathe. Sometimes she touches your hand and whispers, "It's not the God, it's the people." Then she looks away, as if she fears she said too much. After witnessing possession again and again, you learn a truth the priests fear. The gods speak with human mouths, and sometimes human suffering becomes divine spectacle. Visitors believe the oracle speaks for Apollo. Priests believe prophecy justifies their power. You believe the truth lives somewhere between them, and it is far from holy. Chapter 6. Moments of Rebellion, Dreams of Freedom. Rebellion doesn't begin with a shout. It begins with a whisper, not spoken aloud, but rising quietly inside your chest. Like a spark beneath ashes that refuses to die. For years you believed escape was impossible. Your world was marble walls, cold floors, priests' commands, and endless chores. Freedom was a myth told by older slaves to ease their pain. But something shifts, something small, almost invisible, and suddenly you no longer believe the temple owns your mind, only your body, and that difference is everything. One morning, during a ritual, the priest expects you to whisper the invocation. Your lips move, but no sound comes out. A choice so tiny it goes unnoticed, but it changes you. For the first time in your life, you withhold something, a piece of yourself. It feels like a sin. It feels like a victory. You say your real name in your head, the name you were born with, not the temple name given to you like a new brand. The sound of it fills your mind like warm light. You thought you'd forgotten it, but there it is, alive, stubborn, waiting. You whisper it under your breath when no one is near. Its syllables feel like freedom. Slavery isolates you, but suffering creates invisible threads between people. You notice Callista, the girl who tried and failed to escape, still limps, but her eyes burn like coals. You notice Melon's brother hiding stolen bread for the younger slaves. You notice a girl from Thrace who refuses to bow her head quite as low as the others. These tiny acts, too small for priests to notice, form a silent network of resistance. A look held a second too long, a shared piece of fruit, a warning whispered through chores. a promise without words. We look out for each other. It begins as an accident. You are carrying amphorae across the courtyard when you see a weak spot in the wall, a crack near the storage area where the stones are shifting. You say nothing, but your heart pounds. Later that week, during laundry duty, you discover a long rope hidden among cloth bundles. Callista meets your eyes. No words needed. You catalogue the temple like a map, a prison blueprint disguised as a holy sanctuary. Escape becomes less dream, more strategy. But every plan requires a risk. Every night you debate, what if I'm caught? What if others are punished because of me? What if the world outside is worse? What if I die trying? But then you think, what if I never try at all? The thought terrifies you more than punishment. The decision comes on a night when the moon is hidden. The temple is busy celebrating a festival. Priests are drunk, guards distracted. Music hides small sounds. Callista sneaks into your chamber. Her face is pale but determined. It's tonight, she whispers. Your heart stops. You nod. There is no turning back. You gather nothing. Slaves own nothing, just your courage. Fragile, trembling but real. You follow the others to the courtyard, moving like ghosts in the shadows. Your breath is a prayer you never learned from priests. Your foot crosses the threshold between temple and darkness. For the first time, you do not feel the gods watching you, only the night, only the possibility of something else. Escape is not guaranteed. Freedom is not promised. But the moment your feet hit open earth, you feel something new. Hope, a small flame, growing stronger. Chapter 7: Death, Legacy, and the Afterlife of the Enslaved. Death follows temple slaves quietly. It stalks the corridors like a shadow. Not dramatic, not loud, just always there. Most temple slaves die young from exhaustion, illness, malnutrition, or simply from despair. But the temple does not mourn. Temples do not mourn their tools. When a slave dies, the temple does not ring bells or recite prayers. The body is found at dawn, cold on a thin mat, or collapsed near the altar, or curled beside a storage jar. Other slaves carry the body away, their movements gentle, the only kindness in a life of harshness. Priests stand at a distance. They do not weep, they simply say, "The gods have taken their servant." And then the day continues, like nothing happened. Officially, the temple claims slaves are buried with honor. Untrue. Most are placed in shallow pits outside the sacred boundary, wrapped in plain cloth, covered with dry soil, marked with nothing, no gravestone, no name, no memory, just earth. You wonder sometimes if anyone will know where your bones lie when your time comes, or if rain will wash away even that small trace. History remembers kings, warriors, philosophers, priests, but you were a line on an inventory list, a number in a ledger, a nameless shadow sweeping a floor. You know that once you die, another slave will take your place. Another girl will clean the same corridors. Another boy will kneel at the same altar. And your life will vanish like a puff of incense smoke, dispersed, forgotten. But there is something the temple did not expect. You remember. You remember the others. The girl who hummed lullabies at night. The boy who stole figs to share. The elder slave who taught you how to tie your sandals. The one who told stories when priests weren't listening. And sometimes memory is a rebellion stronger than escape. Centuries from now, your temple will be ruins. Tourists will walk through it, marveling at the grandeur of ancient religion. They'll take photos beside columns you once scrubbed until your fingers bled. They'll praise the artistry of statues that once stared through you. They'll read plaques about priests, never about slaves. But stone absorbs memory. Every floor you walked carries a faint echo. Every wall you leaned against holds a trace of your warmth. You are gone, but something of you remains. In the cracks, in the dust, in the silence, waiting to be remembered. Tonight, if you could speak your own prayer, it might sound like this. Let my life be remembered. Let my voice be heard. Let someone know I existed, not as a servant of gods, not as property of priests, but as a human being who felt pain, who held dreams, who longed for freedom. And in speaking your story, we give you the one thing the temple never did: dignity, identity, legacy. The temple remains silent, but you do not. The gods have long stopped listening. The priests have long turned to dust. The rituals have long faded from human memory. But you, the forgotten slave, finally step into the light. Not as a servant, not as an offering, not as a ghost, but as a person, one whose life mattered, one whose suffering shaped history, one whose story still lives in us. This is your echo, your survival, your freedom at last.